Hello, everyone. I'm R. Blank, and welcome to another episode of the Healthier Tech Podcast, a podcast about a healthier approach to living alongside modern technology. Today, I am pleased to welcome Stephen Collette to the podcast. Stephen is a building biologist and a certified EMF radiation specialist who practices in Ontario, Canada through his company, yourhealthyhouse.ca.
If we can make that healing space, sleep is so healthful, right? It's that our regenerative phase. And so by making the bedroom as healthy as possible, that gives you the best bang for your buck.
I was introduced to Stephen through the Building Biology Institute. And I was actually introduced to the Building Biology Institute by Kathy Cook, who we're also interviewing this season on the podcast. And when I first learned about the Building Biology Institute, I reached out to them to learn more about them and their mission. Because from what Kathy had told me, it sounded really amazing and, in my opinion, very important. Because we spend so much time in our buildings, especially during the COVID lockdowns and pandemic. So it's obvious that our building influences our health in really significant ways. I mean, just think how much better you feel after you clean up your living room. Then realize all the other components of your home and how each one affects you, your health, your mood, your productivity, your entire life. So when I was planning this podcast season, I knew I needed to have an episode about building biology. So I contacted the BBI and they said, "You have to talk to Stephen." And when I reached out to him, he couldn't have been nicer. I mean, of course, he's Canadian, but even still, for a Canadian, the dude is super nice. Before we begin, a brief word. This podcast is brought to you by my company, Shield Your Body, where it is our mission to help make technology safer for you and your loved ones to enjoy. Inspired by the life's work of my father, Dr. Martin Blank, one of the world's leading EMF scientists, I founded Shield Your Body in 2012, and we provide a ton of great and free resources for you to learn all about EMF radiation, like articles, ebooks, webinars, videos, and this podcast. And we also have a world-class catalog of laboratory-tested EMF and 5G protection products. From our phone pouch and laptop pad, all the way up to our bed canopy, all of our shielding products are laboratory tested and include a lifetime warranty. Learn more about our products, why we have hundreds of thousands of satisfied customers around the world at shieldyourbody.com. That's shieldyourbody, all one word, .com. And use promo code POD to save 15% on your first order with free shipping throughout North America and Europe. I'm really looking forward to getting to know more about building biology and the Building Biology Institute from Stephen. So let's get started. Well, now it's time to welcome Stephen Collette to the podcast. Stephen is a certified building biologist and the owner of yourhealthyhouse.ca. And rather than go into more detail, I'm just going to get started. Stephen, could you please tell us a bit about yourself and how you ended up in architecture and building biology?
Yeah, thanks, R. First off, thanks for having me here. I really do appreciate the opportunity. And I'm excited about the conversation ahead for sure. I came to building biology through a strange path, I guess. I used to build straw bale homes. So I was a hippie, had long hair, wore my Birkenstocks to the job site, the whole thing. And I was building healthy, natural homes and thought I knew everything. And my wife and our brand new baby we were living in a 100-year-old home. And my wife and our baby got sick from what turned out to be mold. My wife had headaches every day. My daughter had really wicked eczema. And we went away for 10 days and they both got better. And we came back and my wife got a headache as soon as we came in the house. And I realized I actually didn't know anything about healthy and I couldn't even protect my own family. So we moved out of there quickly, and I came across building biology and looking at creating healthy buildings, and I realized that's what I needed to know to protect my own family and to make sure others didn't go through what I did.
We talk to a lot of people here at SYB who have similar reactions to their living environment. Generally, when they come to us, it's about EMF, but your experience was about a different toxic pollutant. And that's really why I'm really glad to have you on the podcast, because I think it's really important to make people more aware of the concept of building biology. A lot of people don't realize that it is a discipline, that there is an institute supporting it. Could you tell us a little bit more about what building biology really is?
Yeah, well, building biology is it's a German school of thought, and it started post World War II. Now, Germany and most of the European countries have incredible building history, right? That's why we go to Europe to see, 400, 800, 1,000-year-old buildings. And what happened after post-World War II with all the terrible destruction is they had to build a lot of housing quickly. And they built it quickly and poorly, not using, normal building practices at the time. And unfortunately, more like we build in North America. But what happened is by the 1960s, doctors were associating illness with these neighborhoods. And that's when they did something very German-like, was try to figure it out. So they pulled architects and engineers and city planners and public health people and medical professionals. And they pulled everybody together and they're like, look, this sucks. We have to do something. And so out of that came changes to the German building code and how they build, a whole raft of public health initiatives. And one of them was to create an institute to look at healthy housing. And that's where the term, the original term, and I'm going to butcher it because I'm not German, is Baubiologie, which is building. Bau is building and biology. And it's building biology and ecology. And it looks at the built environment and how it interacts and impacts occupant and environmental health. And so one of those graduates, Helmut Ziehe, came to North America. He's an architect. And set up shop and started a North American Institute over 30 years ago. And Helmut founded the North American version of it's called the Building Biology Institute. So, yeah, that's kind of the old history of the Institute for sure.
Yeah. One thing, when people think about health, they tend to focus on, am I eating the right things? Am I exercising enough? And what I find really sort of paradigm shifting about the BBI is the conception of how much our environment impacts our health. And of course, because we also spend so much of our days where we live, and these days even more than normal, then how our homes are built and how they are maintained, the impact that can have on our health, no matter what else. We could be exercising 2 hours a day, eating, salads and fruit and just a little bit of meat. And, but it's where we live that can really impact, our health at a really deep level, right? Can you give me some insight into that?
Yeah, for sure. When they started this, back in Germany, they came up with principles, concepts. We don't have points, we don't have certifications, we don't have check boxes, but just principles of how to create a healthy environment. And there's 25 of those principles, and they range from, building materials to electromagnetic radiation to pollution to water quality. And the idea is that, our buildings are our third skin. So when we think about our bodies and what we're willing to put on and put in our bodies, that's really important. And then the clothes and the chemicals like on us, cleaning products, personal care products. But our third skin is our building. And really, when we sort of look at it from a 10,000 feet, we live in a fishbowl, right? We all, we've all had fish at some point as pets. And the idea is that if the water gets too dirty, the fish dies. If there's not enough fresh air provided to the fish tank, the fish die. If you put too much chlorinated water in there, the fish die. And when we really think about the fact that we're fish living in a fishbowl, that analogy really, we put all that effort into it, and yet we think we don't really assess what we're doing. And just like myself, just like a lot of my clients, just like, a lot of your clients, is people don't come to us until we've had something major. And that's, the same thing about diet. Yeah, the triple cheeseburger is awesome until you have your first, heart attack. It oftentimes takes a major event, a turning point, a health scare to make us really sit back and assess. COVID has changed that now we're all stuck with these four walls looking at them. And we spend a lot of time in our homes, 95%. And It was a great recent book about healthy buildings, and they were like, we're actually an indoor species. And again, to think about humanity as an indoor species, like your cat, like your gerbil, that we can't actually survive outside. And we spend so much time inside, and especially after this pandemic, that as an indoor species, we need to really take care of our indoor environment.
That's really, that's really insightful. I know that, so you mentioned these principles underlying the BBI. There's also certain kind of classes of exposures. Am I right? That these pollutants or these toxins fall into. Is that correct? Yeah. Basically, when we're breaking down the environmental exposures for homeowners, for families, for renters, for people living inside, they're going to be broken down into biologicals, which would be molds, bacteria, and of course, we all currently are fully versed in viruses. Then there's going to be chemicals. And that could be cleaning products, personal care products. That could be coming from the building materials or the items you bring into the home. Particulate dust. We all have dust because if we have kids or pets, or if you do crazy things like open the doors and windows, you're going to get dust coming in. Just building a house, you're going to have dust. And then the fourth one is the electromagnetic radiation, and that can be low frequencies from the wires and the wiring within the home. And that can be high frequencies such as cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters and all that sort of stuff. So those four, biologicals, chemicals, particulates, and EMR, are really where everything's going to fall into one or more of those categories together. And the electromagnetic component of the four that you mentioned, am I correct in understanding that's sort of come a bit later than the original sets of principles?
Yeah, even in the original building biology principles, there was a basic understanding that electromagnetics does have an impact on the human body. Obviously, 30, 40 years ago, we weren't exposed to as much as we are today. And so that knowledge and science is growing as the technology is growing, for sure. But yeah, to your point, it wasn't because of its lack of ubiquitousness. We are seeing it becoming more and more important, for sure. As it becomes more, baked into our everyday lives. Right.
Yeah, and I think you'd mentioned to me that interest in the electromagnetic component, because at the BBI, at the Building Biology Institute, the electromagnetic specialization is sort of a standalone program. Am I correct?
Yeah, that's right. So you can take various certifications to become a certified consultant, a building biologist, and one of those specializations is the electromagnetic radiation specialist. And that certification stream has exploded in the last 10 years, for sure. Well, the fact that we didn't have it before and now we have it and it's one of our most popular is really a sign of the times.
Yeah, really. I mean, we see that too. Interest in electromagnetic radiation every year grows at such a rapid pace. I mean, not quite keeping up with the rate of growth and exposures, but kind of along the same lines. Now, you'd mentioned that people don't come to people like you until they experience something major in their lives. And like you said, it makes sense. Just like you don't necessarily re-examine your diet until a significant health issue emerges. But I would imagine that people would be healthier and that they wouldn't have to come to you if the buildings that they lived in were constructed with these principles from the get-go. Yeah. So what's being done to move awareness, acceptance, adoption of BBI principles into, I don't know if this is the right term, but the build phase of housing?
Yeah, so the Building Biology Institute has another certification called the BBNC, which is the Building Biology New Build Consultant. So someone who may be in the building industry, the design industry, somewhere involved in the built environment industry, and want to do it right. And so the Institute does offer seminars and workshops and online training to help people create their healthiest house possible, following the principles and following the building science of just how buildings work, how they fail, and how they impact occupant health. And by understanding the science of, the concept of the built environment, it's really remarkable. Like, I live in a cold climate, and when we think about our homes, in the middle of winter, I could have plus 20, 68 Fahrenheit on one side, and I can have minus 20, it's cold in Fahrenheit on the other side, right?
Yeah.
And so we can have, like, our walls, for example, just go through huge variations, right? And we have wind and sun and rain and snow and all this stuff happening to the outside. And we want it at 68 every day, all year long on the inside. And that puts stress under the systems. And so buildings will fail because of those stresses if they're not built right. So understanding that science and understanding the principles of better practice is really important. And that's because our building codes are not best practice. Our building codes are the worst you can build without going to jail. Like, they're not a goal. They're the minimum. And so with, costs, housing costs and purchase costs, like, it's expensive. And so people, look at price. But what what's the cost per square foot? But what are you paying per square foot per doctor's visits, or per square foot of, medical aids or prescriptions or asthma attacks,
or lost time at work, or sleep. Yeah,
all of those things, exactly. And so whether it's EMR, whether it's chemicals, whether it's biologicals, particulates, we have to think about creating healthier homes from the start. It's just not all of us have that opportunity for new builds. But where it's possible, we definitely want to think about that.
So you'd mentioned interest in the electromagnetic curriculum is increasing. Are you seeing an increase in interest from real estate developers, home builders, in at least trying to understand these principles earlier in the process? Is that also growing?
Yeah, I think with the, everyone's understanding of our homes and our health being stuck here, whether that's from a personal level or professional level, such as you said, builders and developers. Yeah, there's a growing interest. Why? Because there's a growing interest on the consumer market end, and builders are seeing, builders and developers are seeing that, like, yeah, post-pandemic, we want healthier houses. And there's a demand for that. And so, yeah, the Institute's new build consultant course is also growing. And it's great to see, because that's changing people on a massive level, looking at all of those aspects of electromagnetics, of air quality, of healthy building materials. Yeah, it's huge.
At what point in the process is it, and I mean, the answer might just be the very beginning, but at what point in the process is it optimal to involve building biologist and building biology principles?
Yeah, that can be done at any level. You don't even have to hire a building biologist. Of course, I'm biased. I do recommend it, but the Building Biology Institute's website has a ton of free information for homeowners, for renters. The free resources. They have articles, they have videos, they have podcasts. They have a whole ton of information that'll just help you make some basic decisions and some basic first steps, and just helping you understand, how to start to navigate that field if it's all new to you. And from there's the Building Biology Advocate, So you can be certified that, or you can even just take the home study course that's recently rewritten right from the ground up. The 101 home study course covers all of these aspects. And it's like 4 pages on each topic. What is it? What are the health concerns? Where would I find it in my home? And how could I get rid of it or reduce it in my home, with pictures and amazing color graphics? So that could be something that, someone who wants to, do this at home and learn a little bit more, enough to, make a difference for their family and make better choices. Yeah, like there's that, and all the way down to being certified yourself and going out and doing healthy home inspections. So, it's a full spectrum of information on the website for sure.
So just to give people a better understanding, something they can grasp onto, what are just a couple of the differences, just as an example, a couple of the differences that you might see in a home that involves building biology principles in the design versus one that sort of skipped that step?
Yeah. So let's talk about carpet, because it's one of my favorites. And carpet's lovely underfoot, right? It's nice and warm, especially in cold climates. But carpets can hold a lot of dust. And if you've ever pulled an old carpet up, you'll know the filth underneath is pretty disgusting. Now, Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation, when they were doing research on air quality, found that to properly clean a carpet, you have to vacuum 10 minutes per square meter, or about a minute per square foot. And that would take you approximately 6 days to vacuum your house, which is a little insane. Now, obviously, nobody vacuums that much, and that was the point. So what they showed was that the presence of carpet holds a lot of dust, and that dust stays in there, and it stays ultrafine. And ultrafine means it can get past my nose and get past my throat and get deep into my lungs. Now, young children, especially toddlers and babies, where do they spend all their time? Right down there on the carpet, right? Yeah. In the breathing zone. And so their immune systems aren't fully developed till they're like 12. So they're being exposed to a lot of dust. And that dust can have chemicals, and it can have biologicals and pollens and cat dander, and you name it, all exposed in there. It's quite a lot. So from a building biology perspective, we would say vacuum more often, right? If that's all you can afford, or if you're renting. And then maybe consider a better vacuum, maybe get a HEPA, a high efficiency particulate arrestor vacuum. So we're capturing the smallest of the small, or maybe we're going to open windows while we're vacuuming to flush all that dust out that we're stirring up, because your vacuum's not capturing all the really small stuff. And then, maybe we're going to look at getting rid of that carpet and taking it out and replacing it with, some solid surface, some healthy building materials. And so from a building biology, perspective, we want to think about that kind of process. And from a new build, we would say, solid surface, healthy surfaces, more natural surfaces, making sure those solid surfaces don't have chemicals baked into them, like polyurethanes into your hardwood floors. Can we just use some beeswax or linseed oils, or, some more natural solutions that are durable? Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was a great answer. And I noticed how you snuck in there some action items for people. And I noticed that, so you had 3, right? There was vacuum more often, get a better vacuum, and rip out the carpets. And that sounded like 3 sort of levels of response. That here's the easiest thing, here's a step better, here's really the best. And is that part of how you approach working with your clients?
For sure. If I come in and just start swinging for the fence and give you the gold standard for everything, I'm wasting my time and your money. You're not going to be able to do everything. No one is. So I need to help create an action plan for clients to find their priorities, both financially and health-wise, and go, okay, well, this one's the priority. We're going to spend the money there. This one's not the biggest priority, but we should still do something about it. And so we're just going to do that simple one maybe until we can afford it down the road. And that creates a stronger empowerment, a stronger call to action that it's like, okay, we can achieve something. We can, because there's no such thing as perfect. It doesn't exist. But we need to always be moving in that direction. And any step towards creating a healthier space is making you healthy, right? So, EMR, the Wi-Fi. Okay, well, turn the Wi-Fi off at night, put it on a power bar with a built-in timer so it shuts off automatically. So at least during the sleeping time, it's off. Maybe that's one solution. Then, because that's going to cost you like $20. And then you could buy a safer router, one, that does have Wi-Fi, but you can dial it down, right? And you can manage the strength and intensity, and that's going to be a couple $100, but that's going to make a big difference. And then, like hardwire, right? Or obviously, shielding as you're far more experienced and knowledgeable, we can bring those into the equation to make safer places and, where you put your router, all that kind of stuff. So I don't think it shouldn't be black and white, and because that's polarizing for people. So all solutions need to be on a spectrum.
I like that. So as I mentioned at the beginning, your business is yourhealthyhouse.ca. And
Yep.
You were just talking about how you interact with clients. Maybe if you could tell us first a little bit more about yourhealthyhouse.ca. What is it exactly that you do through this company?
Sure. Thank you. As a building biologist, I do indoor air quality consulting. I do healthy house inspections for people, both close within proximity to where I live in Ontario, but also virtually, to help them learn about their house in a way that they weren't taught, and to show them opportunities to create healthier choices and decisions, whether that be, in their existing home, whether they want to do renovations, new construction, but to help guide them and educate them. It's one thing to just tell them you should do this, but if they really understand it, they can take that information internally and make better decisions lifelong ahead. And so educating people and helping them create healthier homes for sure is what I do. And that can be with tools, air quality tools. That can be with building science knowledge. But it always has to be educational. They have to be present. I don't do it alone. That's a waste of their money, I think. They're missing out a lot. And just figuring out how their house works and how to improve it.
So earlier you mentioned that generally you see that for people to become interested in building biology, something has to be going wrong in their lives or in their health. Could you give us a little more insight into how and why people hire you? What drives them to engage your services?
Yeah. What's interesting is the two largest demographics, in my experience, are young families starting a family and empty nesters. And that's because those two age brackets are willing to pay for their health, right? The young family, starting family, we want to get pregnant, or we are pregnant, we got a first kid coming. They're like seriously thinking about, this young miracle occurring, and wanting to give it the best start they possibly can. And that gets them, excited. Empty nesters, same thing. They're thinking about, the kids have grown. It's just the two of us. We need to take care of our health so we can take care of that beautiful little grandchild coming. And so those two are really interested in their health. Those of us in the middle, we're typically too tired and exhausted, running kids to school and to camp and to dance, and all this kind of stuff that, oftentimes has to be a serious problem before we we have to deal with this kind of thing. That's been my experience. I obviously have lots of clients from all age brackets, but, those two demographics certainly can be more engaged.
And
because they understand it.
Are they experiencing health problems, and through research they've discovered that maybe it's their house?
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes no. Again, it depends. Most of the people reaching out to me are either, what was that term? LOHAS, lifestyles of health and sustainability. There is a group of people, who's listening to your podcast, the people who are interested in making healthy choices. They try to avoid the large big box and, supporting local and that kind of stuff. There is that demographic, of course, as well. Typically the ones who are reaching out to me because something's gone wrong, they're not always willing to believe what I have to say. I've had that a lot where it doesn't matter, but she may be, really interested in what I have to say, and he may be a complete non-believer in what I'm talking about, or it could be the other way around. It's gone both ways. But so that happens, but it's everybody's exposures and history of exposure that causes them to react differently. So,
are there certain categories of health challenges or problems that you find in your clients, or is it really all over the map?
Yeah, having done this for about 15, 16 years, I have worked with sublimely sensitive people, whether that be electrosensitive people, whether that be chemically sensitive people or mold sensitive people. I had one woman react to the polyethylene screens in her sunroom facing south when the sun hit them. And there was it took me hours to figure out what she was reacting to, but she was reacting to the off-gassing of these screens. Remarkably, minute. And, could you have measured that? Maybe, but humanity has such super sensitive senses that we most often ignore over our lives. And when people get sick, chemical sensitivity, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, even cancers, certainly on the electromagnetic side, people become more sensitive, and those people are the extremes. It's not everybody. Some people just don't feel well, or just there's a smell. I hate this smell. Is something wrong in my house because there's a smell? And that's okay too, right? That we don't want it to get to the extremes by any stretch.
So I like that we've gone deep into sort of the practice of building biology and your practice of building biology. I was hoping we could take a minute and step back and actually talk a little bit more detail about your experience with the Building Biology Institute itself. I understand you started there in 2005. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct.
So 16 years. You've been involved with the Institute for quite a while.
Yes. Yeah, I'm really lucky. When I first took the courses, I was just so eager to learn. And what's amazing about the seminars when they're live in person, and hopefully next year we will be going back to live in person. But the idea of just spending 5 days with complete strangers from around the world who are there for, on similar paths, they just I need to know, I got a sick family member, or I want to make this a business, or, I'm sick myself, or I just experienced something that I just changed my life and I need to know more. Spending time with those people and the instructors just is so enriching and so engaging that after the first seminar, I was hooked. I was like, I need to know more. And, the second seminar, the first one was air quality for me. The second one was electromagnetics. I came home from the electromagnetics course and kissed my wife and kissed my kid and walked over and unplugged the microwave and put it outside. That was exactly what I did. I was like, we're not using this ever again. And, it was those life-changing, but really life-affirming as well, really great people. And so I got so much out of it that I wanted to give back. And so myself and my wonderful colleague, Paula Baker-Laporte, who's one of the most brilliant architects and humans I know, She designed Healthy Homes, EcoNest. She wrote the seminal book, Prescriptions for a Healthy House, which everyone should buy. I think it's the best book on building biology and healthy living for new construction. Paul and I both, met and had a vision about creating the content for the new course, to create the new build consultant certification. And it's been a dream teaching with Paula. And beyond that, I've taught the air quality class and teaching her the building science. We started teaching the building science class because we really wanted to get that into people's heads about how important that built environment piece was baked into the principles. And yeah, I'm really grateful that I'm one of the instructors. I love the Institute. There's some great, staff, amazing staff. The board members are fantastic, and their legion of volunteers is unwavering. And I've just always had really, really deeply positive and personal experiences with the Institute. And I'm just honored to be able to give it back for sure.
That's really nice. And you're obviously painting a picture of a pretty wonderful organization that's also quite dynamic. But another part of the picture that I'm getting from you is that it's continually evolving, that there's new subject matter that's being adapted into the curriculum. Is that right? This is not a static discipline.
Much to my wife's chagrin, she's like, "What are you working on?" "Oh, I'm just updating again," And yeah, like the Building Biology Institute and the seminars are based on solid science. This isn't tinfoil hat wearing. This isn't fear mongering. This is like, what is the best science telling us about these environmental exposures? And, often there's this huge separation between academia and real life. There's these amazing research that papers are put out and knowledge is gained, but getting that into the hands and minds of the homeowners and renters is really hard. Not everyone's a nerd like me reading all this stuff. And so all the instructors across all the courses are always updating their information and the content and links to research and links to articles that, can help create a broader foundational knowledge for people who becomes building biology environmental consultants or EMRS or BBNCs, so that they know that what they're talking about, that there's science behind it, and here's the research. And it's really important because, certainly with EMR, there's a lot of that misinformation out there. And that was the case through mold, through chemical, sensitivities. It was a lot of misinformation and disinformation as well. And so the Building Biology Institute is rock solid foundation built on science. And we work with environmental doctors. We've been very lucky, both staff, instructors, and as consultants. We're at the environmental health conferences speaking. The environmental doctors are at our conferences speaking. We're sharing information. And that has to happen, because with the environmental medicine, we're fighting the same fight. And what we know and what they know is really important to be able to understand how to make people healthy, because that's the ultimate goal.
So I really liked the bringing academia to real life. That's something here at SYB we try really hard to do, to make the importance of science understandable to people. I'm wondering if you might have any insight into some of the directions that the BBI is moving now.
Well, I know there's always, interest and the directions itself is keeping the content up to date. More social media, I think, is really important, because people are digesting information differently, right? They're not reading it in newspapers. We're digesting it digitally. And so I know the social media aspect of the Building Biology Institute, just to help to get people something in their hand that they can just quickly read and quickly, oh, wow, I didn't know about, I'd like to learn more about that, and get those kind of resources out there to a broader audience, I think is really important. And that's always been the message, that mission piece is to educate. It's not about everyone having to be bums in seats taking a seminar. It's the free information on the website and getting that free information out to everybody, anyone who wants it.
So coming back a little bit to the actual practice of building biology, earlier on, we spent some time talking about what could be done at the build phase. But a lot of people are renters and are obviously a bit more limited in terms of what it is they can achieve. But I understand that one of the principles of building biology and one of the principles of the way that you practice it is that everyone can make a difference. Is that right? So renters have options too?
Yeah, for sure. You want to think about everything that you're bringing into your home. And I like to tell people to just think about your front door as the gate, right? As the guardian, as the fortress. What are you bringing into your house? Whether that's food and you're eating it, is it healthy for you? Cleaning products. If you're not willing to eat your cleaning products, you shouldn't be using them because you are ingesting, absorbing those cleaning products. And they're not, if there's a smell to them, if there's no lemon in it, there's no spring mountain air inside that can, I can guarantee it. It's a chemical. So we need to be those gatekeepers and thinking about more natural materials, more natural clothing, more natural finishes, less chemicals, less pesticides, less the flame retardants. And then how do we minimize our digital life? How can we lower those exposures? Turning the phones off, please turn them off, turn the router off, turn all the digital appliances off, all that stuff. And just try to think about, those. And renters can make a huge difference in their home. Can they fix everything? No, obviously not. But
there is no perfect anyway, as you were saying.
No.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Yeah.
So I know that one of the principles of the Building Biology Institute is that the bedroom is the most important place to start. Am I right with that?
That has always been the place for sure. And that's because that's where our bodies are healing themselves from all the stupidity that we put it through during the day. And so if we can make that healing space, sleep is so healthful, right? It's that our regenerative phase. And so by making the bedroom as healthy as possible, that gives you the best bang for your buck because you're getting deeper sleep, you're getting more REM, you're getting more, all the actions going on inside the body that are healing and rebuilding and making you, bigger, stronger, faster, smarter. Really important. So focusing on the bedroom, because sometimes it can be overwhelming, right? Whether you're renting or new, like, oh my goodness, where do we start? Yeah, start in the bedrooms. Get the clutter out, get the dust out, get the electronics out. Keep it clean, keep it simple.
That's good. So yeah, because I like giving my listeners some tangible, actionable to-dos, and it sounds like you just named a couple of them for the bedroom.
Yeah.
And the bedroom being the most important place to start. Could just to emphasize what those are again. So the three things that anyone can do in their bedroom to improve the quality of their bedroom.
Get rid of all the electronics for sure. Get rid of the clutter. If you can't find horizontal surfaces, that causes you stress. Like if the place is filthy, it causes you physical and emotional stress. So clean the room, hang stuff up, put stuff away. And then a deep clean, right? Clean under the bed. Under the bed is the filthiest place because nobody cleans under their bed. Vacuum, wipe, mop, whatever. clean it out, get the dust out of there, air it out. Now, I tell people your bed is really the best place to start. Our pillows, right? When we look at the bed itself, we think about we sweat up to a pint a night, which is a huge amount. And so dust mites love all that moisture and they love all our skin cells. And so cleaning the bed out, airing the bed out, first thing in the morning, right? Pull the sheets back, open the windows, get the air movement, dry that bed out. Super helpful. And that doesn't cost anything. And that's reducing an allergen load. And so keeping the bedroom really clean, really, minimalistic will definitely make it healthier.
Thank you. So if I were just a regular person, so maybe someone listening to this podcast.
I hope you are.
No, I'm actually I'm hosting the podcast, but someone listening to our podcast, what would they find when they went to buildingbiologyinstitute.org? Are there resources for just regular people there, or is that really more for the experts such as yourself?
No, for sure. The Building Biology Institute.org has a ton of free information for homeowners, videos to watch, which are really helpful, both like kind of just skimming the surface and diving in deep. There's some one-page fact sheets, and that's a great place to start. You want to know something about cleaning or about kitchen or about construction? One-page fact sheet, free download. Or you can just read it online. It's right there for you. These are really great, starting points. If you want to learn more, you could buy the 15-pager if you want and just dive in a little deep just on that one topic if that's what you're really interested in. But you don't have to. The podcasts with Ron and Lisa Bears, great. Great fun introduction as well. So those kind of pieces and just all that information is there for free. And that's where you should start, because they're not. Sure, they'd love you to take, the Institute would like you to become certified in that, but the educational piece is broad and wide. Get on the Facebook, the Instagram, whatever, and just start learning from a trusted source of information about what's going on and the easy steps to make your home healthier.
That's great. So everyone should go check out the Building Biology website, and that's buildingbiologyinstitute.org, and that'll also be in the show notes. And Stephen, I can't thank you enough for coming and sharing information about building biology with our listeners. It's such an important subject. It's such an important institute. And I really appreciate you taking the time. Everyone can learn more about Stephen Collette and his services at yourhealthyhouse.ca, and that'll also be in the show notes. And yes, Stephen, thank you so much for coming to share your expertise.
It's been a real pleasure, and it's always fun talking to you. I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Wow, what a conversation. As always, I'm joined by my right-hand lady and operations manager at Shield Your Body, Stephanie. Stephanie, I know that you actually live in an older home. So I'm sure that you resonated with that conversation. What did you think?
So yes, I do live in an older home, and I could sit down and chat with Mr. Collette for days. So I live here in Vermont, and the temperatures fluctuate to extremes. And my house is about 100 years old, and I love the property. I fell in love with the oldness of it, but in, living in an older home and becoming more and more aware of health issues, of course, I'm a little concerned about, whether it's actually bad for my health, because it wasn't built to certain codes. But of course, listening to Mr. Collette, I did realize that even our current building codes are not that great. But I do worry about how it was built and whether it is, affecting my health in a negative way. So, when he said we live in a fishbowl, I have to say I started to get really paranoid. And, it's like, honestly, I find the thought of making an older home safer in the way that I've learned in, from this interview, really daunting. And that's why I love this interview so much, because Mr. Collette gave me and our listeners who perhaps live in older homes action items. He pointed us to free resources on the bbi.org. And most importantly, he gave us some perspective. So when he said nothing is perfect and to strive for that is pretty much silly, and that any step to create a healthier space is making you more healthy, I exhaled in just a sigh of relief. I felt, a little more hope and empowered to start making some of the changes he recommended. Because, up until that point, the more I learned about, building biology, the more I felt, overwhelmed to paralysis. And that, oh my God, everything that I need to do is going to cost so much. And I have to rip this house down and all of these things. But really, that's not true. And the way he framed the conversation and the action items even is completely doable. And it just made me feel really inspired to take some action and empowered and less daunted.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that comment. And that's actually the first item I noted on the top 3 things I got out of this interview, where he describes building biology, or his approach to building biology, as a spectrum of possibilities, that there is no perfect building biology, and the goal isn't perfection, the goal is improvement. And I like the way that you explained your reaction to that, coming to it from such a personal perspective, because this is something I try to communicate a lot when it comes to EMF in particular, that the goal isn't perfection. In fact, eliminating EMF exposure completely isn't even possible in almost anywhere in the world today. And the goal is improvement. The goal is taking steps to reduce your exposure. So it sounds like we agree on that being probably at least from our perspective, the most significant point that he covered. I'd say the second one that I got out of it is I actually enjoyed hearing some of the history of the Building Biology Institute.
Yes.
And how much it's grown since Stephen got involved at the turn of the century.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed hearing about the history of how the Building Biology Institute started. And, I was fascinated that, first of all, like, the concept started in Germany, which, I guess that, it makes sense, I guess. I never really thought about it. And that I never actually thought about the history of the architecture there. And then the impact of World War II on, their need to build homes quickly. So that whole, that whole history was really intriguing. And, just another thing I just hadn't really thought about. And from that devastation and needing to build these homes, eventually the building, these building codes and standards, building and ecology became an occupation. And, I found that really super interesting. And then how it, morphed over to North America.
Yeah. And also just how much it's grown in the past, 15, 20 years. And it makes sense. I mean, you see an increased focus on certain topics like wellness and healthy living and just awareness of how our environments impact us. But it's nice to see that, because the Building Biology Institute takes a very, I would say, rigorous academic and scientific approach to these things. It's not just checking out something on the internet and, throwing potpourri in a room. It's like a real discipline, and seeing that there is a growing interest in that, it gives me hope. I really like that. And then the third point that I took out of this is I really appreciate Stephen's focus on not scaring people. That's a big priority of mine as well. As you know, Stephanie, at Shield Your Body, because, when people just start to become aware of EMF as a health risk, a lot of them can become sort of terrified and panicked. And that's just not a useful perspective. It doesn't help you achieve anything that you couldn't also achieve by staying calmer. And in fact, you're in a better position to take a more effective approach to remediating the issues when you're not scared. Being scared is not a perspective from which to take action. It's not optimal. And so when it comes to issues of health beyond EMF, especially the ones that people aren't already aware of, that they're just learning about. It is so easy to get scared, and it's easy to scare them. And it's also really important not to. So I felt, personally that I really jived with Stephen on that point.
Yeah, definitely. And there's another thing that he talked about kind of towards the end of the interview that I thought was really, really important. It's something that we struggle with from time to time at SYB, and it's something that you're actually very good at. So the quote I'm pulling from Mr. Quotable is, often there's a huge separation between academia and real life. Often there's a huge separation between academia and real life. And what he's talking about, and this is, as I said, something that we deal with at SYB, is explaining the science in a way that allows anyone to understand it. Because here's the thing, if you're talking to somebody about EMF and you make them feel stupid, the message is lost. And I loved how I love that quote, because he's talking about, part of the job, part of the evolution of Building Biology Institute and all of these different topics and new disciplines is taking the hard science and then making it actionable and understandable for everyday people. And I really appreciated that, because, as I said, that's something that we have to do at SYB, and it's something, that you're really, really good at, is taking the complicated and making it more accessible and easy to understand.
Yeah, so maybe that's part of why I like that interview so much, because I just agree with his approach so much. So again, Stephen's website is yourhealthyhouse.ca, and you can also learn more about the Building Biology Institute at buildingbiologyinstitute.org, and both links are in the show notes. If you like this show and want to hear more, please remember to subscribe to this podcast, the Healthier Tech Podcast, available on all major podcasting platforms. And if you have a moment, please also leave a review. Reviews are critical to help more people find this podcast and learn about the important and undercover topics that we cover. And you can also learn more and sign up for our mailing list to get notified when we have new interviews, webinars, ebooks, and sales at shieldyourbody.com. That's shieldyourbody, all one word.com. You can also just click that link in the show notes. Until next time, I'm R. Blank, and I want to thank you so much for tuning into the Healthier Tech Podcast. And always remember to shield your body.